Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of 108th Inch Baseball Talk. My name is Scott Morgan, Rock Motor City Mad Mouth. Glad to have you with us tonight. Title says MLB's final week, regular season. Well, we got some interesting topics to get to. We're going to talk about Darvish, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., the Detroit Tigers, Shohei Ohtani, Blake Snell, and we'll all have our own parting shots. With that said, okay, well, I know that I'm taking an eye test with Trent Clark's screen here with the in and out. Just remind you that I'm not going to Certesivia's eye clinic tomorrow, but at least if Trent Clark wants me to go out there and go to one, I'm getting close to it. So with everybody out there, okay, there he is. He's messing with me now because he knows I'm talking about it. So we'll introduce the crew real quickly. We got Eric Katz to my right.
Hello.
How you doing? And the barber, who's also going to be appearing beginning next week. You'll be able to find him on Fire Up Florida. We'll be talking hockey. He'll be covering baseball once in a while. So there he goes. All right, Trent. Easy does it on my eyes now. Okay, there you go. And now we got Trent Clark here who's messing with my eyes, but Mark will be appearing on hockey from time to time. And there we go, Trent. Go ahead.
Great to see everybody.
Good to see you too. Yeah, flash them rings, brother.
You got the rings, yeah.
There you go. He's got the hardware. We don't have it. Of course, I have one too, but from college. I won't mention it tonight because there wasn't a good result Saturday night for the team that I'm wearing that ring for. George Eichhorn was on round one earlier, Fire Up Florida.
Good to be part of the show. Thanks, Scott.
All right, well, let's get to it. Darvish becomes the first Japanese-born pitcher in MLB history to record 2,000 strikeouts, a member of the San Diego Padres. All right, Eric, some thoughts about the accomplishment for Mr. Darvish.
He's had a solid career. Obviously, he began with the Texas Rangers, where he was practically unhittable upon arrival, and he's obviously continued that with going forward. So it's obviously huge for him, a huge accomplishment for a pitcher as good as he's been over the years.
Okay, go to Mark.
Yeah, I'd like to see him win something besides, accomplish a little bit more. I do think he's deserving of it. He has been very solid, very steady throughout the course of time, playing on a couple of different teams. He's just given the same performance no matter where he was. So you got to tip your cap to that. 2,000 strikeouts is nothing to sneeze at, fellas.
No question about it. George?
Yeah, it is nothing to sneeze at. I mean, that's a great accomplishment. Been blessed to see some pitchers here in Detroit win that strikeout, be the strikeout king, for a season. But boy, Hugh Darvish has really had he really has had a good career. He's been consistent most years, and he does deserve to be on a winner. No question about it. A playoff contender, and do something good there. But congrats for 2,000 strikeouts, Hugh.
All right, Mr. Ringman. What's what we ought to call you, Clark, Mr. Ringman, because you don't mind demonstrating them. Demonstrate them again, but while you're at it, talk about Darvish.
Well, it's exciting to see. Obviously we saw a couple of great Japanese players break into the league, and Yu was actually one of the pretty early ones. As you see, it takes a while to accumulate 2,000 strikeouts. So Yu Darvish has done a great. I had the pleasure of coaching Hasegawa, who was a nice pitcher, did a great job for us with the Angels. Yu set a new standard, and of course, with Shohei Ohtani coming behind him, I don't know how long his Japanese record might stand, but if Shohei's elbow gets healed, that record may not last that long. But big hats off to Yu Darvish. I think that's awesome.
Well, let me tell you, there's a guy by the name of Hideo Nomo who was an excellent Japanese pitcher.
Dodgers.
That's right. And Darvish is doing a good job with the San Diego Padres. I've been saying all along, I think San Diego's a sleeper. I really do. When they get in the playoffs, this team is going to be outright dangerous. But let's think about the 2,000 benchmark there in terms of strikeouts. Will that be the new 3,000 or 2,500? You got to wonder a little bit about that. But yeah, more power to you. We'll see what he can do. But 2,000 strikeouts is definitely a nice accomplishment these days. All right. Well, I don't know why this show has an international theme, but it seems like it does. And so we go from Japan. We're going to go to Canada. Yes, but that's not the reason why I'm wearing red and white, though. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. hit the 100 RBI mark for the Toronto Blue Jays. Vlad Jr. is in the elite company for the most 30-plus home run seasons by a Canadian-born player. Also in that club consists of Larry Walker and Jason Bay, who have 4. Vladimir himself is also joined by Joey Votto and Justin Morneau with 3 each. All right, well, you know what? We're going to start where we ended. We're going to go to Trent Clark. Some thoughts about Vlad Guerrero Jr.
Yeah, I coached his dad, and so I mean, I think it's a pretty cool thing. I never think of the Guerreros as Canadian born. So obviously, he was probably born up in Montreal when his dad was just delivering blows up there as a young man. Like what a player that guy was from the beginning, and so it's pretty exciting. Pretty good company, man. Like those names, wow. I do think Vladdy will be the fourth and only, it sounds like. So that I look forward to that next record for Vladdy as probably the only Canadian guy with the 30-plus home runs, because I think he'll maybe have 4, 5, and 6 Motor City. What do you think of that?
What do I think of that? I'll tell you one thing. The Toronto Blue Jays can afford to keep this guy. You talk about a Canadian team that will spend money. The Toronto Blue Jays will. You know, we can even take this to the hockey team. The Toronto Maple Leafs can spend money. Problem is they haven't won a championship in ages. You have the Raptors winning one under Kawhi Leonard. You also have the Blue Jays once upon a time under Cito Gaston. So in terms of being able to keep the guy, okay, and yes, Trent, he won a couple of them. Those Blue Jays, Cito Gaston, I see no reason why the Blue Jays can't keep him around for a while and he can become a North American hero, let alone a Canadian icon. So that's what I think of it, Trent. Good lead in to Eric Katz.
Well, as a Yankee fan, I can't stand playing him. But he, you know, there's no denying the talent. Obviously, I like Trent. I remember seeing his father play. Obviously, a Hall of Famer and very deserving of it. A lot of power there. But it's been a while, you know, in baseball where Canada has had a baseball icon. I guess you could make the argument for Doc Halladay. That, you know, that's an argument can certainly be made there. But there's one that, like, you know, I don't think, but Doc didn't spend his whole career in Canada. Remember, he went to the Phillies where he finished up. But I think this is like, you know, it's been such a long time since Canada has had a baseball icon. Obviously, the Montreal Expos leaving from Scott, you remember this one, from their concrete dump. You know, it's obviously that didn't help, especially when, you know, I guess you could qualify Gary Carter as that. And, you know, before Vlad leaving, he probably could have been that. But I think this is the first time in a while where they've had a player that truly resonates with them, where, you know, he's a guy that makes them go to the ballpark. I mean, the Blue Jays aren't very good this year, but people are still going to the Rogers Center to see Vladimir Guerrero blast home runs. So I think it's good. It's great for the sport. It's great for Canada to have themselves an icon where, you know, it's been a very long time since they've had one.
Oh, for those of you that haven't heard the term before, Eric Katz calls the Olympic Stadium in Montreal the concrete dump. So there's a little bit of a refresher as to why he went that direction. So with that said, Mark.
Well, hold on. Can we push back on Katzy? Larry Walker? Larry Walker's not a Canadian icon, man. He was a young go-getter. The Expos just traded all their talent away. Randy Johnson, Vlad, Larry Walker was an Expo and a Canadian, and that guy was a wrecking crew in Colorado. I think Larry Walker could have been an icon.
Larry, I'm talking like someone who has the country's pride, not he hangs out in Canada for a bit and then comes back down to the States and absolutely wreck shop there. And also Larry had the good fortune of hitting the balls into thin air at Coors Field. And but you know, I like Larry Walker, don't get me wrong, and I thought he should have been in the Hall of Fame a lot earlier than he did, but he didn't, like, you know, he spent a little time in Canada. Yes, he's from Canada, but it's not like he was like somebody people were flocking to go see, because he only spent a small period of time he only spent a very small finite period of time in Montreal, which I believe was the first few years of his career. This is Vlad, where he's spending a significant amount of time where people, you know, where it's truly Vlad mania up in Canada.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you something. I see a bit of a rivalry developing between Eric Katz and Trent Clark. Can you see this? Seriously?
No.
I'm going to tell you one thing I can see. I do.
No, the coach will hammer me.
Well, all right, well, it's okay. If you get hammered, Mark Merriday will probably be enjoying every second of it anyways. I know he enjoys that, but the reality of the situation is Larry Walker, I've spoken to him before, one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. He really is one of the nice people. And I'm glad he got the Hall of Fame honor. At least he got it anyways. Doesn't matter what he got in. At least he's young enough to appreciate it. Some players will never see that opportunity because they gambled, and I won't get into that on this show.
John Mattingly deserves in.
Well, I know that, but don't get me started on that one because I could go on.
He's not Canadian.
Yeah. All right. So, all right, Mark, how do you size up Vladimir Guerrero Jr.?
Vlad is hell of a player, great representation. He's the face of that organization, but they shopped him a lot this year. You know, I mean, he got shopped a lot. They had his name out there, and I don't know if they want to do a complete overhaul or what they want to do, but I was really shocked that they would do that with the guy that is their staple on that team. And, you know, I don't know how you can do that. I don't know how you can do that because he's still a fairly young guy and not want to build around him. You know, I just, from that perspective, you know, a team gets him, that's a guy you build around. You know, I mean, you go out and get a guy like that. His accomplishments are magnificent at such a young age, I think. You know, but he grew up in the ballpark. He understood everything that was going on as he came through the ranks, which was rather quickly, if I remember correctly. You know, he knew what he was getting into, and he just fit right in day one. So,
I actually remember him when he was in Double-A with the New Hampshire Fisher Cats, which was the Toronto Blue Jays minor league team. I'm telling you, you were seeing a talent at the time. This man was hitting rockets off the bat when everyone else was going pa at the batting cage. He was going pa. Like, that's just, the guy was on a different level than him. I mean, the reason why you might not see him in Toronto is, you know, the Blue Jays are probably one of baseball's only corporate-owned baseball teams. The last of its kind. Obviously, remember the Mariners with Nintendo. Here's the thing: despite being the only Major League Baseball team in Canada, the Rogers Communications has shown a reluctance to spend. They just do not sign these massive contracts. I have not seen. I mean, obviously they shelled out some money for guys like Kevin Gausman and others. But here's the thing: they're not spending like the Yankees or the Dodgers. That's just not their calling card. It's why they're.
What I find interesting, Eric, as you say that, I'm sorry for cutting everyone off there, but every year you hear about how they're going to be one of the top teams in the East. And I'm kind of like, you know, by mid-season, they want to start selling parts away and rebuilding again. You know,
I'm not feeling too bad for him as a Yankee fan.
Yeah, I'm sure you won't. I can only see that Yankee biasness towards you anyway. But that's
I could bounce off Cats for a second. You know, speaking of minor league top prospects, I saw Vladdy play in Fredericksburg against our young Double-A team in Cleveland, which was the Akron team. And young Jarrett Wright on the mound versus Vladdy. And Jarrett went 0-2 and thought he was going to go up and in on Vladdy. And Vladdy deposited about 80 feet over the left field wall like it was nothing. And he was a tall, little, thin guy. I mean, he was thin. And he later got fooled on a breaking ball on Jarrett Wright low and away that he one-hopped the fence on a stand-up triple. And you knew that guy was for real at that point. Just like Cassie said there, when you see these kids at the minor leagues and you know they're men among boys, like it's something special to watch. And Jarrett Wright, I think, led that league in Double-A in strikeouts that year. Like he was something to be seen. Another son of a major leaguer, and these kids got a different level of gear in them, man. And it's fun to see them when you get, you know, especially in the small towns and the ballparks up close. I think Eric's exactly right. You can hear the sound of the bat, and it's different.
Okay, George, let me tell you something. You got a lot to absorb because everybody's talking about him. Where are you at with Vladimir Guerrero Jr.?
My question is, and you guys have hinted at this, is how will the Blue Jays handle his impending free agency? Okay, there's no question about it. He's a superstar. He's only 25 years old. He's already got 160 career home runs, 504 RBIs. and he leads the team in offense consistently. But the question is, as you guys alluded to, the ownership, and how are they going to get enough players for this team to contend again? The Yankees and Tampa Bay and Boston, and it's a very difficult division. Baltimore and Toronto is just lagging behind. I mean, I know he likes it there, but I kind of feel sorry for him. But boy, would they pull a trigger and send this guy packing or let him go somewhere else? It's sort of like Mike Trout. Mike Trout tied to the Angels all these years, except Mike has been hurt so many more times. But Vladdy, I love him. He's like you said, he's a Canadian citizen. He born in Montreal. His dad was a great player, but boy, oh boy, tough decision coming forward, guys, whether they're going to be able to keep him and afford him. And does he really want to stay if they don't contend anymore?
All right, well, let's go to the chat room. Blows, obviously, is in there. Good evening, Eric Katz. Well, you got a friend of Josh Odor. So there you go. Some exclamation points. So EK, there's your nickname. Okay, let's keep it going. What's going on, Eric? Look at this guy, doubleheader night. Yeah, we definitely did that. And George, how do you know all this stuff? Give Blows 22 a little bit of information that we do have sources. All right, there you go. Yeah. We do have sources.
Can we talk to one thing about this? I mean, being the only Canadian team, this is a different thing in baseball. In the NHL, these leagues divide the U.S. dollar and the Canadian dollar, and everyone's on a balanced level, right? They don't do that in Major League Baseball because there's only one team left. So Toronto sits out at a price that's a third off the U.S. dollar automatically. They have a premium right now on the budget, being that the dollar's, I think, less than 70 cents right now on the U.S. dollar. So that's a serious concern right now. When you talk about playing Vladdy, 15 million, add almost 5 million onto that. It's a $20 million Canadian charge. So Rogers has got their hands, and Mark Shapiro, that president, Ross Atkins, the GM, these guys don't have the luxuries that they had in Cleveland with the U.S. dollar. And this is going to pose an issue on being a team that can be efficient, because, a couple shows, Motor City, we talked about the Marlins, line of 14, 18 million or something. I mean, it's 40 million. Right. And listen, what's the breakdown of the U.S. dollar on the Canadian League? Because you got to take that discount, and Rogers is going to feel that. They're going to feel that all the way. And now the fans feel that, because the cost of the tickets to go to the game is also at a premium up there. And it's a gorgeous facility. They just did a bunch of new work up there at the Dome there at the Rogers Center. Right. They're trying to make it incredible and a great family venue. But there's a premium price now for the Canadian team, and we have to factor that in.
All right, let's go back to the chat room. All right, Josh Odor wants to know if Eric Katz can say hi back. Well, Eric, you got to address the guy. He's actually being nice tonight.
Well, I did before, but then we got in question. But I'll say it again. Hello, Josh.
There you go, Joshua. There you go. Marlins are winning the World Series this year. Okay, I don't know what Kool-Aid you're drinking, Josh Odor, but not the same one everybody else is. But that's okay. Mark my words. Okay. Thank God they are words, because obviously, I'm not. I won't get into what people are eating or drinking. Otherwise, there'll be a fire sale in the chat room about what I should say or shouldn't say about drinking and eating. We don't talk about food on the show. But let's go back to what Trent talked about, okay? And that's this. And I want, Cages, there's a way to get Trent and I both on the same screen at the same time. If not, I don't know. That's okay. Put us all together. You're right. Will he take a hometown discount? Is one thing. But the biggest thing that you have there is this. Your biggest drawing card is Vladimir Guerrero Jr. If you don't keep them, what message are you sending to your fan base? And how long will you continue to go out there and let them know, we're not going to be competitive enough to get to the World Series every year? That's the only thing you wonder about. But yeah, go ahead, Trent.
Well, I'd say the Southern California faithful said, how will the Angels win without Mo Vaughn? And we got rid of him and enter in a world championship with a cohesive unit of a team in 02. So I don't know. Is it always up to a big star? I don't know if it's necessary. I know it draws tickets, but nothing draws tickets more than winning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Right,
but I'm not so sure I compare Mo Vaughn to Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Seriously, come on, Trent.
Well,
How many years? Oh, George, give me the stats. How many years? How many years did Mo Vaughn have 100 RBIs in a row when he came to the Angels?
Yeah, well, when he's playing in Fenway Park, that helps too, right?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
All right. I mean, let me tell you this. Okay. All right. So Joshua Dorr wants to know if Eric Cass, you own Belly Up. I don't know. Maybe you could give some clarity on that. I don't know.
I do not.
You done? Okay. There you go. So I clear it. Now back to what Now back to what I'm saying. Mo Vaughn, for a lot of you baseball people out there, Fenway Park to me, and it's on my bucket list. I went to the little one out in Fort Myers. It's a really cool place, by the way. And you know what? To me, it is a very hitters-friendly ballpark, to say the least. Other people, not me, because I've never been there, so you can't say anything about me, is a bandbox. If you want to go to a regular ballpark, there's a lot of other ones. Fenway is a place to go where how many home runs that you hit there wouldn't be home runs anywhere else. Okay, so when Mo Vaughn got to the Angels, then he played in what you call a real ballpark, not a bandbox. Okay, give me the double fingers, Brett. Okay, with all these rings and all that business.
Yep,
So,
that's it.
I don't know.
You're not wrong. You are not wrong.
So let me ask you a question, Clark. I'm not afraid to go at you. Tonight, it's me against you, at least while these guys are spectators, okay? How can you even dare to compare Mo Vaughn to Vladimir Guerrero Jr.?
I'm not comparing them to each other. I'm just saying you get rid of an icon star, and it doesn't always necessarily mean how many championships did the San Francisco Giants win with Bonds, and then how many after? I'm just checking.
Don't get me started on Barry Bonds. I'll save that for another.
I'm just checking.
Well, I don't care. That's okay. No, how many people are upset Barry Bonds didn't win any championships?
They got two in San Francisco after he left, and the Giants would never be the same without Bonds. No, they'd be better and be a winner.
Well, I thought the Giants had four without Bonds. Of course, a couple were recently. But
tell them, Cathy.
Hey, wait a minute. Hold it. Let me keep this thing under control. Then again, I'm out of control. It doesn't matter. But still, it is what it is. So here's the deal. You can't even compare Barry Bonds there. First of all, I had an opportunity many years ago when the Marlins won it all to go out there and talk to that cheater, and I chose to get dumped on with all that champagne in the Marlins locker room and hang out with my buddy Ray Rosenthal. And I've never been dosed with champagne in a celebration, but I'll take the champagne over the Bonds man. Okay. And I'm trying to be diplomatic and polite about this whole thing. No, it's one thing to get rid of a superstar, but let me tell you something about Bonds' tenure now that you got me going here. Didn't Jeff Kent try to knock his brains out in the dugout? It's not like, I don't know what kind of a character Jeff Kent is, but hey, he didn't like him either. But yeah, I know we can flash those rings all you want, but here's the deal, pal. Okay. Mo Vaughn versus Vladimir Guerrero Jr. One couldn't carry the other one jockstrap, period. I mean, Mo Vaughn, when he left Fenway, he began to play real baseball, not bandbox baseball.
Wow.
That's all I'm going to say about it.
Well, that I looked it up for you, Trent. That's not totally accurate. When he left Anaheim, we left Boston, went to Anaheim, 33 homers, 108 RBIs his first year as an Angel. Second year, 36 homers, 117 RBI. So it's not like they dropped off dramatically from going from Fenway to Anaheim.
Yeah, but how many years?
Motor City.
Well, that's all right. So what?
You wanted the stats off. I'm providing the stats.
Okay, Scott. Okay, Scott and George, you've had your turn over there.
Well, hold on, wait a minute, and I'm not done. You want to put in two cotton picking totals? Let's see what was done over 5 years. I don't care. The bottom line is any baseball player can tell you that they'd rather hit at Fenway Park than in Anaheim.
Well, I will say though, the reason why I guess the San Francisco Giants had a lot more success when Bonds left is I'm sure they were happy that the clubhouse was a lot more quieter between Bonds being a media firestorm in by himself and his tumultuous relationship with Jeff Kent.
I can tell you from firsthand knowledge about Jeff Kent, he's kind of a chill guy until you piss him off. My best friend's son played under him down in Texas, the whole 9 yards. And, he's very mellow guy, doesn't like to be part of the big scene or anything. And
he's quiet.
He must have really pissed him off. That's all I can say.
Well, that's okay. It's good to get all that information. See, we got a bunch of guys.
I mean, let's be honest. Who didn't Barry Bonds piss off?
They pissed me off.
Well, you pissed off Don Mattingly for crying out loud in Miami, and Donnie got rid of him after a year or two. If that, I haven't even got a chance to talk to Don about that. I will one day.
We gotta be careful on cheater, because I understand you called him cheater. That connotation can lead to a lot of folks in that league. If we're what are we counting cheating? Scott. You know, we counting scuffing the ball cheating? Are we counting? You know, like, it's a tough thing for me. And I did coach Jeff Kent in Cleveland, and Jeff is a very quiet, reserved guy. He's focused. He doesn't say much. So you're right. To get him fired up, I agree.
Well, here's the thing. Wait a minute, Eric. Hold on now. Mr. Clark wants to get involved with this. I'm still willing to go after you. Number one, okay, first of all, everybody that he didn't get along with us, you don't bite the hand that feeds you to put you in the Hall of Fame, okay, which he was dumb enough to do, and he probably regrets it to this day. Should have been nicer to us, okay? You should have been nicer to us, okay? But you didn't. You were stupid, okay? Barry Bonds is stupid. If I had a chance to meet Barry Bonds or nobody, I'd meet nobody. I don't need to see this idiot. I don't even care about him. I really don't like this guy. Tell me how you really feel. I like Dan Marino better than Bonds, and I hate him too. But that's beside the point. But the reality of the situation is this, okay? Barry Bonds is nowhere close to sniffing the Hall of Fame. If he got 50% and he's running out of time, too bad, so sad. If you think you can't get in with the baseball writers, what makes you think the rest of these guys are going to vote you in? Period, Barry. Get out of here. Jeff Kent, I wish you would have knocked his brains out. I wouldn't have cared. But the reality is we started this thing about Mo Vaughn. Don't know how we got to Barry Bonds, but I got to get fired up.
We started this about Vladimir Guerrero, my brother.
And then we wandered on to Barry Bonds, which I will say, though, for those who are talking about about cheating and all that, be thankful. We can all, as baseball fans, I think in hindsight, although it's morally bad now, we can be thankful it actually saved the sport. Watching home runs go 400 plus feet out of the ballpark and entertained us and brought back the fans after the disaster that was 1994. So I think we have a little bit to be grateful for with steroids at the time. Not really now, obviously, because the opinion has changed.
Yeah, the only thing I got to be grateful about steroids is the fact that everybody wants to get on Sammy Sosa's rear end. I worked with a guy in 1987. Yeah, well, Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire saved the game of baseball. Everybody getting on their case. And you got Barry the fraud out there that can't get along with his own stupid shadow. Give me a break. But meanwhile, mind you, this topic all started because Eichhorn researched Mo Vaughn because of 2 years in Anaheim. I did 2, by the way. And that's how he got all that money. That's how you go ahead and comp 2 rings, 2. And we're comparing.
He wasn't there for that.
Well, I got rings too, but not the kind you have. Okay. But that's beside the point. Got Mo Vaughn, and we have Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. to me is this, okay? He has the chance to carry a country on his back. It depends on if the corporate Raiders will keep him around so there's something to see during the summer in baseball, because here's the thing they have to think about. You don't go ahead and keep this guy around. Don't tell me all those hotels over at Rogers Center, Sky Dome, whatever you count, they'll be discounted next to nothing like motels because they're making money off of that too. They are. And right, like Robert Wardell, everybody was on roids then. Well,
not true.
Well, maybe not everybody, but a lot of the key ones that are left out of the Hall of Fame that you're never going to see Rafael Palmeiro. But we'll get into another Hall of Fame show. We still have a lot more to do with the pennant race, and I have a couple topics I want to get
Rafael Palmeiro is a different story.
Yeah, but that was that. The good old Mr. Clark knew how to fire me up tonight, comparing Mo Vaughn.
Be careful. Be careful,
Vladimir
Scott.
Guerrero Jr.
Be careful.
Seriously?
Be careful, Scott. Be careful, Scott. Don't mess with the uniform.
I don't mess with nothing. I got a uniform on too. You don't see me over at Hallover Beach, do you?
You're already messing with the uniform.
I don't worry about the uniform. Trent and I talk privately. We know a lot of common people that wore the uniform, right, Trent? So we know, and that's why I brought him on the show to be with you guys. I mean, we have other projects we're working on, but I know that his heart and soul is in this show, and that's why he's on week in and week out. But that said, Candy, hard to imagine we've only got 2 topics and a whole lot more, folks. But we're going to put the Rolls Royce on here for a station break, because that's what I call it the first show. I got to stay consistent with that.
The South Florida Tribune published a book last November called Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by none other than your host, Scott, the Motor City Madmouth Morganroth, and the foreword was written by none other than George Eichhorn. It is available for purchase on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Apple, and Google Books. Get your copy today. It talks about how the industry has changed over Scott's 40-plus years. And if you think he can't tell a story, you are dead wrong. Go get your copy and read all his stories in there. You can also go to our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where there's a link to his book, there's a link to Trent's book, there's a link to George's book, all on our website. Plus, there's a link to our merchandising store. See, Trent's showing you his book. You can, in fact, you can get any of our merchandise from our store. You can also read the writings of Scott and George on our website. And you can see some of the pictures, because I'm behind the camera. I take pictures too. Go check out the pictures I've taken. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do so. Share us, like us, tell all your friends about us. Preceding this show on Monday nights is Fire Up Florida, which talks about hockey. Then we have this show. Tuesday nights, we talk football. Wednesday and Thursday nights, Sports Exchange and Fire Up, respectively. You never know what topics we're going to be discussing, so you have to tune in to find out. If you want to advertise on a show or sponsor a show, call Scott, 954-304-4941. You missed any of this information, it's scrolling on the bottom, or you can just hit the rewind button. Back to you, Scott.
All right, well, we're going to go on a different topic instead of move on. Otherwise, I won't be able to talk no mo. Okay, there you go. Pun intended here. But we're going to talk about the Detroit Tigers. Fans better be rooting for the Miami Marlins this week because they get a 3-game series versus the Minnesota Twins. So the Tigers, the Marlins took 2 out of 3 from the Motor City Kitties, and George Eichhorn and I were there earlier in the year to see it. So, Mark, what are your thoughts about the fact that the Marlins and the Twins will go a long way, probably, for helping the Tigers clinch their first playoff berth in a while?
I think it's exciting to see the Tigers do what they're doing. Here's a young group of kids with some seasoned veterans sprinkled in with them who's making the most of an opportunity in front of them. They're red hot. They're taking advantage of every opportunity. It just seems like they're pulling pushing all the right buttons right now. And that's really fun to see, to be honest with you. I love watching a team like that do well after being in the doldrums. And I especially love it for George. Look how happy he is tonight.
Great segue. Great segue to Eichhorn. All right, Mark, I'm proud of you. And by the way, as I mentioned at the top of the broadcast, Mark Meriday will be making his debut on Fire Up Florida next Monday night. He'll come on baseball too, but Mark has a passion for baseball and hockey. He'll get his dose of hockey as well. All right, George, pick it up from there. Well, you're gonna be rooting for the Marlins this time, aren't you? We gotta make a Marlins fan out of you for at least 3 games.
Yeah, but they got their sights on Kansas City now, the Tigers. So they have just been a remarkable story. The hottest team in baseball since early August, and the job that AJ Hinch and Chris Fetter and the whole coaching staff has done has just been remarkable. I mean, you're talking about 3 out of your 5 starters have been gone for most of the summer, and you're doing it by the bullpen, opening starts, whatever they call those. And, the guys have come through. I mean, he's got a schedule. They are very good at organization, Hinch and his staff, and when one guy's going to pitch and how long he's going to pitch, when they have all these bullpen starts. But the fact of the matter is Parker, Meadows, and Torkelson, but Torkelson has not responded as well, but Meadows has been fantastic since he came back up from Toledo. And then you got Riley Green. You got all this young talent there. And then you get this guy Sweeney in a trade from the Dodgers when they gave up Flaherty. And, like you said, the buttons are being pushed. Everything is going well. It's just a remarkable story. It really is. Because this town is a baseball town, let's face it. But they're a football town, number one, of course, with the Lions. But it's good to have excitement back. It's good to be playing games that are meaningful. Trust me, they're turning this town upside down right now.
So you're telling me they're focused on Kansas City? Sure, they're focused on it. But don't you think they want the Marlins to beat the Minnesota Twins? Because the one thing you're forgetting, It's the fact that the Minnesota Twins hold a tiebreaker against the Tigers, but probably
Sure
because
they
they're
do.
head-to-head. So you better
Yeah.
hope and pray that the Marlins can go out there at least win 2 out of 3. So with that said, I'll turn it over to Eric.
Well, I will argue though that that Detroit is a baseball town first, because the Lions have only come on the city's radar in recent years, given what's going on there. Which obviously happy that's going on. But let's be honest, when they traded Flaherty and Andrew Chafin, people thought they were dead in the water. Continue on with the rebuild, keep the farm system going, blah 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 blah, and more than likely they'd be content. They'd probably make a run at it next year. But no. They weren't dead. They just got hot out of nowhere. And you forgot one guy, George. Don't forget about Kerry Carpenter, who, man, that guy can hit. And then it seems like all the bounces are going in their direction. Like the other day, Trey Sweeney had that insane catch on that blooper where he got kneed in the ribs, which I wouldn't have blamed him if he didn't throw it in and the run would have scored. But he had the wherewithal to throw it back in there, and the runner from third ended up staying. And then also the ricochet off that pitcher where he got hit in the side and then whips it over to first base for the out, which was truly impressive, which that's how you know everything's going right. But overall, though, Chris Fetter's done a nice job with that reimagining that pitching staff. I don't be surprised if Fetter actually gets looks for managerial jobs this coming off season. And then AJ Hinch, a guy who's been through it about now his third time around. He's been through it, and then man, they got themselves a young, talented squad. And I think they're only scratching the surface on how good they could truly be. Now, the question, I think this is the type of season where when they go to the playoffs, which I strongly think they will, where they all of a sudden just rocketed up the American League out of nowhere. I think when they do go to the playoffs, the younger Illich might have some pressure to spend a little dough. They need a little instant offense.
Pizza dough.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, the father owned the pizza, and
he owns it too.
Yep. And he's got, this team is a fun team to watch, a fun young team. And now fans are just, now you just see Comerica Park getting packed. As fall starts to descend upon the Midwest, that ballpark it's nice to see that ballpark coming back to life again, because it's good to see the Tigers are good again.
Okay, we'll turn over to Trent.
Yeah, first of all, Chris Illich does spend the dough. He's investing in all over in Detroit. He's investing in real estate. That town is on fire right now, and Chris Illich is in the center of a lot of it that's happening, so that's exciting. When I was there, Chris was a kid. Like, Chris was in college when I was coaching there. So, it's fun to see this whole thing come full circle. That family's committed to the town, and it's great to see a family of ownership that believes in it. I'll tell you, George, the thing that frustrates me is that, you usually had nobody at that ballpark by June 1st, all kind of writing this team off. And, that's the one thing I've seen that probably the faithful kind of gone away. It has been a couple rough years. But, man, there's also been some good ones like 2005, 2006, 2012. Like, these guys, every time again, they get back in it, which is impressive. This is a heck of a year. I think it's a tribute back to, you lose a really good big name like a pitcher like Flaherty, and you think it's over and it's a rebuild, and these kids show up and just keep moving. There's a nice balance of veterans with Torkelson and such. I think it's a big shout out to AJ Hinch. A lot of people gave AJ Hinch the deal like, oh, he only won in Houston because he had this dynamic team and he had everybody. But you know what? He's doing it, man. He's doing it with a team that is not first man to 9, a wrecking crew out there. So it's pretty impressive the way AJ structured it. So I'm pretty impressed. I'm surprised, Motor City, we're not talking about the Royals' 7 losses in a row at this time of the year. Holy wheels falling off.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I have a crew like this, because all I have to do is moderate and fill in the blanks. I like to let my talent.
Don't forget about the Twins going down.
Well, I alluded to the fact that the Marlins can inflict damage on them, but they won't.
And I think they will.
They won't see Pablo Lopez, who got rocked the other day against the Red Sox. Let me add a couple closing thoughts to this segment, because here's what you've got going. If Tarek Skubal wins the Cy Young, like many people think he will, that will certainly elevate the franchise. And obviously, Chris Illich better think about keeping this guy long term. That's number one. And number two, when we talk about the Tigers in general, especially recently, yeah, we know that Chris Fetter could be a serious managerial candidate, but this has been a long, tough journey for the Tigers because you're talking about Mike Ilitch, who spent a lot of money, whereas Chris Ilitch had to inherit a lot of bad money, and he's had to really cut a lot of that salary out with that dead money to try to reorganize it. So I can tell you one thing about AJ Hinch. You're right, though, Trent. Okay, if there's such a thing called a legacy, and I've always wondered about it, sometimes legacy can be used in a lot of different ways. Yes, he won a championship with the Houston Astros. I don't have to get into that story. He also started off with the Diamondbacks and didn't do that badly either. But now with the Tigers, this is something that is a game changer in terms of his legacy is what it is. Knowing that he's had to go out there and endure a couple of years. And I'll say this before I turn over to Eric really quick. That trade deadline to me was a trade deadline teaser because let's not lose out on some of the fine players that they acquired, including Trey Sweeney, the guy that Eric mentioned, made that sensational catch. Okay, Eric, go ahead.
Well, I will say about AJ Hinch, though, it's not that AJ Hinch was a bad manager. He had a way, particularly in Arizona, he had a way of losing the locker room, which was his biggest problem. And obviously in Houston, it happened again with the whole mess there, which I still think he's a loser for that. But it's not that he was always bad. It was just he had a way of kind of losing control of the locker room, which I'm still curious to see if he can keep that going for a long period of time, because so far he hasn't been able to do it. He didn't do it in Arizona. He didn't do it at the end in Houston. But I'm curious to see how that plays out going forward. Not to put cold bathwater on the guy, but that has been an issue for him in both his managerial stops.
All right, I'm only going to say one thing about the topic because I want a couple more really want to get to, and that's this. Just because coaches don't succeed in their first, that doesn't mean second and third acts will be a lot better. Case in point, number one, let's talk about Bill Belichick. Didn't work out so good with Cleveland, right? Well, how did it do with New England? That's item number one. Okay, then item number two, we talk about another guy who got a better opportunity the second act. Well, we all know that the second act you'll learn an awful lot. Okay, go ahead, Eric.
I'll be okay with Belichick in Cleveland. Okay, it wasn't. I mean, number one, it wasn't as bad as people made it out to be. Number one, Bill was extremely horrible with the media. That was problem number one. Right. Problem number two was the previous year. Remember, he led them to an 11-5 record, and he beat Bill Parcells in Cleveland for Cleveland's first playoff win for what ended up being many years. And, he also inherited a rebuild. So obviously he had to deal with that because he was dealing with a mess there. And fourth, how can you succeed when your owner decides to shoot his mouth off and say how he's going to move the team? There is no being successful when he decides to rain on the parade and all the buildings start crashing around him. That's one of the reasons why Bill Belichick ultimately failed in Cleveland.
All right, but Eric, let me add a couple things. All right, go ahead, Trent. I want to add a couple of points, but go ahead, Trent.
Well, I was going to say, if you haven't looked at it, Guts and Genius is a fabulous book. I sent that to a good buddy of mine, Matt Eberflus, head coach of the Bears. Listen, first seasons, early on in this season, NFL is rough. Guts and Genius follows the story of three unlikely coaches who came to dominate the NFL, who started out very badly. Walsh, right?
Yeah.
Pretty bad start. Mm-hmm. Joe Gibbs, very bad start.
That was brutal.
And then who's our other guy we just mentioned? Bill Parcells, terrible in his first 2 years, right? Like these guys turned out to be, and let me just add a new one to that list. Andy Reid seems to be doing all right now because no one thought Andy Reid could coach. And all of a sudden, he seems to be dominating the whole thing over in Kansas City. So
he won 4 NFC championships, or didn't he got
went to Super Bowl
championships though, Trent.
Who's that?
Andy Reid.
He did very well in Philadelphia.
But let's put everything in perspective, okay? Chuck Daly struggled with Cleveland, and how did that turn out in Detroit?
Yeah.
So you do learn.
Okay.
Wait, hold on. Let me finish, okay? I'll try to be polite and gracious with everybody else, but every now and then I slip one in here and there. But, here's the thing. A guy can learn from his first, and they ultimately turn out better. Whether it's a media situation that you're talking about, so what? Bill Laimbeer never got a job because he couldn't get along with his old shadow. Don't get me started on Bill Laimbeer. I already got into one rant tonight, and I go off again on that guy. And he never got a job in the NBA because he didn't get along with the media as a player. The only job he ever got in the media and the NBA was with the Minnesota Timberwolves as an assistant under Kurt Rambis. Otherwise, the NBA wanted no part of him, and they turned him into the WNBA. He did fine there with half as many games and half as many of us people covering the media. Who knows if he'd get along with anybody in WNBA these days because there's more media and he didn't have to deal with us many. But Chuck Daly did well on his second act, okay? So guys do learn from their first experience, and as a result, they can turn out better the second time around, which is what happened in the case of Belichick did get fired by Cleveland, and we all know how it turned out in New England. And, of course, as I just mentioned, Chuck Daly is another example of it as well. So, and I'm sure the list goes on and on, and we could get into it. So I don't, but those are the two that came to mind. That's all.
All right.
With that said, look, well, you know what, Trent? Everybody's wanting to get to Shohei Ohtani, so we're going to go out there and talk about him a little bit. We can't do a show without describing Shohei Ohtani 6 for 6 day with 3 home runs, 10 RBIs. And so what? So in one sentence, just one sentence, okay? I know it's going to be hard, but one sentence, okay? As the Dodgers clobbered Miami 24, how would you describe what Shohei Ohtani did on that particular night, okay? Mark, one sentence.
Oh, Jesus, that's a tough one.
Sure, when everybody has one sentence.
Unmatchable. It's not even one sentence. Unmatchable. I don't ever see it happening again.
Okay, fair enough. George?
A player and a game for the ages, period.
Good, I like that. Eric?
Iconic.
Okay. Well, I'll give you a sentence that nobody will ever forget. Skip Schumacher didn't want to walk him, and he'll be looking for another job, so he didn't even care. Might as well go out there and let him in. He didn't want no intentional walk. All he wanted to do was just, I don't want to walk him. Go ahead. What the heck is he going to care? You're going to fire me after 6 games. I'm leaving anyway. So what? That's what you call a Skip Schumacher parting shot to the Marlins. Go ahead. I'll be a part of a historical game that puts you in the 50-50 club when we get to next week. So there you go. Skip Schumacher, you just got a parting shot with the Marlins. So what? 6 for 6?
He did that franchise a favor by doing that. Otherwise, they would be still irrelevant.
Doesn't matter. We'll get to that another day. Skip Schumacher wanted to watch Shohei Ohtani at his best, and he did by a score of 20-4. I don't know if the Jacksonville game is closer or not with Buffalo. I'm not getting into that. Anybody that wants to go ahead and give me that score, fine. If you don't, who cares? 20-4. What is it?
37-10.
Okay, well, that's still a high score for football, but 20-4 in baseball is unheard of. 20-4. Skip Schumacher wanted to watch Shohei Ohtani show, and from what I hear, Shohei Ohtani loves Lone Depot Park, and I did have a chance to watch him one time when he was with the Angels, and Don Mattingly was with the Marlins, and boy, Donnie and I had a good time talking about that game. Great stuff. All right, but we'll shorten that segment to get to the next couple things because you guys have been craving for parting shots. That's why I limited that one.
Scott, time out. You forgot Trent. He did not give us our one sentence.
Well, go ahead. Well,
Yeah,
that's
Trent.
right. Sorry, Trent, but at least we got George Eichhorn here to know that I'm dealing with that disease called dementia tonight, DUMBMENTIA. If you don't see it in the dictionary, of course you didn't. I made it up. But go ahead, Trent.
Yeah, I say a touchdown and a field goal for Shohei Ohtani. One word, Japanese, Kaizen.
Say what?
Look it up. Look it up.
What dictionary?
You've been
The
challenged.
Japanese one.
Oh, yeah, good. That's what I figured.
Google
Google,
Translate.
Scott. Google it, Scott. You have the internet in your hands. Use it.
No, I'm too busy doing a show. I don't have time. I leave that to George Eichhorn to do all that stuff.
And Candy.
Or Kate Ambling when she's on. Or she'll put
He's got me speaking Japanese.
Yeah, give me a break. But they do have good food. And I'll tell you one thing. I hate to be saying this on live stream here, but, back in the day when I was in school, I taught a Japanese woman how to pass that TOEFL test. And I'm going to tell you, them Oriental back massages are those for the ages. So that's all I can tell you.
Let's keep it clean.
The
Let's
next
keep it
topic.
PG-13.
Hey, I got a lot. I could say a lot about that actually in recent
don't
years.
say it. No, I'm saying it. You don't have to worry about it. You're too young to date Japanese women. They'll show you what a sushi is and all that business.
I'm sure they will. Believe me, I've been on the road.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
I've been on the road. Trust me.
I can only imagine with you and a Japanese girl. Oh my God.
Oh,
Let
All
the
over the
imagination.
hotel.
Yeah, never mind. No comment any further. I'm bound to hang myself with
can
that
take
comment.
you
All I'm going to tell you is this. I know he wants time out, but I'm going to tell you.
Technical foul. Technical foul.
Yeah, well, that's okay. I'm used to them. I've seen them all anyways. That doesn't matter. But I will tell you, though, for all you international people watching this show, if you've ever had to take that TOEFL test and you're an exchange student, it's not a thing to do. But this girl was a real nice woman, and I had no problem showing her. Because here's the thing about foreign people, they get so hard on themselves that they don't know the language. But if you get to know as Americans, a lot of Americans don't know it either. So don't feel too bad. But she didn't know it at the time. But she did pass the test as final. Yeah, I will say one thing. She did pass that test and thank me. And what did she give me back? Oh, my goodness. I'm telling you, those hands are hard on those bones, even if they're in your early 20s. And I'll leave it at that. So from our little oriental message here, of course, where's Joshua Door when you need him to talk about this topic? Oh, well, it has nothing to do with Eric Katz. That's why. Okay, he made his appearance at the Eric Katz show. All right, so anyways, we'll go from Japanese massages and Shohei Ohtani to Blake Snell, because in his last 12 starts, he's been 3-0 with 1.45 earned run average, 68.1 innings pitched, 93 strikeouts, 0.84 whip, whatever they call it anyways. But most of all the Giants have won 10 of their last 12 starts. Please help me with the whip business, because you know what? I don't know anything unless it's an ERA, strikeout, walk, hit by pitch, which Barry Bonds, my favorite not athlete, got hit by a lot of. The only thing is they didn't hit him in the head enough to knock some sense into him when he was taking steroids from Balco. But all right, that's beside the point. Keep it up, Blake Snell. Now you're going off topic. Boom. Oops, sorry. I don't want to break the headsets. So anyways, let's talk about Blake Snell. What do you think there, Mark?
Well, that's why they brought him in, right? They let him sit in the free agent market, and they expected that from him when they brought him in. He didn't need a lot of time to get himself adapted, but this is the time of the year where he really takes off, really, and he's done a tremendous job for that team. I mean, what they do after this, I don't know. Again, here's another guy that they were dangling out there at the trade deadline because they didn't have any faith of re-signing him or, nothing. And now he's pitching his ass off. So, yeah.
George?
He led the league a year ago in ERA, earned run average 2.25. He was 14-9 a year ago, and he's done really well lately, as you mentioned. He's 5-3 this year. I look back at that Tampa Bay season. What was he, 21-5? The guy's got a lot of talent. I mean, it hasn't translated every year into league-leading statistics or necessarily all-star games or Cy Young awards, but I've always been a Blake Snell fan. I think he's a good pitcher. He's solid. And, San Francisco, just like the Tigers. I mean, San Francisco is getting a big boost right now near the end of the year from him. And I applaud him. He's done a good job. And I always like that Giants team. I hope he keeps it up.
He just threw a no-hitter, didn't he? A couple months ago?
Yeah. You know what's funny how you bring that up too, Mark, because everybody was saying they didn't go deep into games. Well, he ended up going deep into that one and put himself in the history for doing it. So thanks, Mark, for bringing that up. Appreciate it.
Yeah, Mark. Good job, Mark.
All right. So go ahead, Eric.
Well, Blake Snell has that reputation of being a 5-and-fly guy. He typically starts slow. I mean, that's just been his MO. He always like early in the year, he kind of starts slow, kind of gets into it. But, then like as the season goes on, he picks it up. Obviously him being on the free agent market didn't help that he's repped by the notorious Scott Boras. But it's nice to see him kind of bounce back to what he was, prove that his Cy Young year was actually a Cy Young year, and that he's provided like a nice encore down the stretch. I think with how well the Giants are playing this late in the season, I know it's a little too late for the playoffs, but it could very well be the difference between Farhan Zaidi saving his job or looking for a new one. I think that could be the difference, because obviously there was the news about the Matt Chapman extension, which Buster Posey kind of reportedly took care of that. But I think with how well the Giants are playing down the stretch, I think that'll keep Farhan Zaidi in as San Francisco's president of baseball operations for at least another season.
All right, I want to go to Robert Wardell's comment. This is funny, and the happy ending included. You know what? I knew I was going to get a comment like this. I was waiting for somebody to be listening and watching to the whole show. I have to tell you, being in my early 20s, I mean, she was a beautiful girl too. I mean, she was a real sweetheart. I ended up making out well with Candy Emily. I said I got a Rolls Royce here, but had I been a little bit more involved with relationships, she could have been a future missus, to be honest with you. We got along that well. We really did. And there was mutual respect for the fact that I knew the language well. Didn't hurt. I was working at the Tampa Tribune, so I knew it a lot more than she can imagine. But she was definitely marriage material. But the problem when you have an exchange student, and I'm going back to Metro Detroit, it did happen. But no, I mean, that would have been a happy ending back in the day, But I made out just fine, and I'm proud of the woman that I have. So I'll leave it at that. So, Robert, I'd like to address everything in the chat room. I'm not afraid to admit that one, though, because she was a real sweetheart. In fact, I remember her so well that her name was Yumi Kato, Kato. And I'm going to tell you one thing. The first time we ever went out with a group of people was over at Adventure Island. And let me tell you, going down them water slides was an awful lot of fun with a lot of people we have. So I'll let your imagination run amok. We'll leave it at that. All right, Trent, what are your thoughts about Blake Snell? I probably gave you a little.
Yeah, I think let's. I'm gonna stay focused on Blake Snell. So I think the idea that, again, coming out of the Padres, the Padres are a great team right now. I can't imagine them with Snell. Like, right. Good Lord. For me, probably not a huge transition this year. Bigger transition when he came to Tampa, San Diego. But now he stays in the NL West. I mean, which is crazy when a team like that gives up an arm like that. I'm a little disgusted by that number, by the way. He's got a 1.27 ERA in 12 games, and then he's only got 3 wins. Like, who's backing this guy up? Like, the offense is taking the night off. Every night this guy comes out and throws because they can't put up 2 runs. 2 runs. That's all they need, and he gets W's. It's great that the team ends up winning 10 of 12, which is awesome. But, right. Man, how is this guy 5-3 with an ERA under 2? That's criminal to me. What's his whip, George?
I'm done with the stats.
I can explain that. I will explain it if you want.
No, Eric, we don't need it.
No. Yeah, you got too many old geezers here that don't know about whip. The only thing I like to do is I'm winning. I like to whip opponents, not worry about this crazy stat nobody knew 25, 30 years ago. Hey, nothing against today's baseball analytics, but whip to me will always win. Of course, if I want to get crazy and I'm looking for sugar buzz, I can look for whipped cream. That's pretty good on any dessert. But depends on how you interpret it, Robert Wardell, but leave it alone. But anyways, I don't care. So with that said, Blake Snell, as in the eyes of Trent Clark, it sounds like you're being wasted, is what it looks like there, but with what you're putting out there. And yes, Mark, I'm glad you brought up that no-hitter that took a Rodney Dangerfield feeling that he didn't get any respect that he could go deep into games. That's a great point, Mark. I'm really glad that you brought that up. All right, well, everybody has an opportunity to get some parting shots in. With that said, Mark, lead off.
What in the world was C.J. Abrams thinking when he went out gambling all night and decided to show up to the ballpark?
Legend.
And thought there'd be no repercussions. Like, what? I know he's 23 years old. I get it, but what is he thinking? Back to the minors.
Okay. George?
Hats off to the Philadelphia Phillies. Tonight, they won their first National League East title. I could not believe this. Since 2011. 13 long years, Dave Dombrowski's team's been waiting in Philly for a victory and celebrating the division. So Bryce Harper, great job. Nick Castellanos, everybody on that team. And they're going to be tough. You watch them in the playoffs. They obviously have a lot of experience, and they're going to be a tough one to beat in the playoffs. But congrats to the Phillies.
Eric?
I got to say congrats to the Cleveland Guardians. Always a lower payroll team. Obviously, they don't have the pitching that they usually have this year. But, man, it's just been a good year for Stephen Vogt. He's got this team together. They can score now. They hit for power. and they still have kind of the fundamentals in play that, you know, Terry Francona put into that team, such as moving them over and I'm getting them in. That's still there. But when you add the Stephen Voth new elements into it, it's been a fun team to watch this year. And, you know, despite not having the starting pitching, this team has a bullpen. Emmanuel Clase is borderline unhittable. He's going to be in the Cy Young race. He probably will get votes, but don't mess around too late in the game. Otherwise, you're facing a very big flame-throwing closer in there where you might as well not even come to the batter's box because it's going to be more than likely game over.
Fair enough. Okay, good. Trent?
Well, it's the last week of the season, and you can smell October coming, you know, and October for me means, man, this is just great memories of these moments in time. Heroes and goats are made in minutes, and I can't wait to see it all, man. I mean, this is what the whole season comes down to. This is what everybody works for, and when you're in it, everybody talks on, like, you know, literally November 1st, how are you going to build a winner for next year? And all the coaching staff's asking, who are you going to keep? Who are you going to maintain? Can we maintain our stars and keep our guys together? And it's this constant shifting of the pieces. And these managers who are going out there, these fans that are just living and dying in every out now, it takes baseball up another notch for me this time of year. So you can't help but love October.
Love it.
Okay. Well, then my parting shot, if you want to call it that, Charlie Blackmon announced his retirement today from the Colorado Rockies. So great career for Charlie Blackmon. Hope he gets the necessary honors from the Colorado Rockies that he deserves, whether it's his number retired. Don't know if he's going to get a statue, but a number retired, acknowledgement in their Rockies Hall of Fame. But Charlie Blackmon, from what people told me out in the Denver area, has been a model citizen and an excellent ball player. And we'll see where his post-career honors take him. But he's certainly been a big contributor to that franchise as well. So
14 years, right? 14 years only with them.
Yeah, he has been.
Wow, it's impressive.
So with that said, we'll let Candy Ebling take us home. Go ahead, Candy.
The South Florida Tribune published a book last November called Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by your host, Scott, the Motor City Madmouth Morganroth. The foreword was written by George Eichhorn. You can find it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Apple and Google Books. There is also a link on the South Florida Tribune's website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where you can find the writings of Scott, the writings of George, my photographs, and also a link to our merchandise store where you can get South Florida Tribune merchandise. If you like to listen to podcasts, you can find us wherever you get your podcast. iHeartRadio, Google, Apple, Deezer, Spotify. Monday nights, we talk hockey first on Fire Up Florida. Then we talk baseball. Tuesday nights, we talk football. Wednesday and Thursday nights, you never know what we're talking about. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you see that red button, that means you haven't. So click it, like us, share us with all your friends and family. I think that's it, Scott. Back to you. Just wrap up the show with everybody else.
There you go. All right. With that said, Mark, why don't you let everybody know how they can get a hold of you?
You can find me at the Original Sports Podcast with Mark Maraday. We're on every platform that you can listen to podcasts. We're on Tuesday nights on YouTube, as well as Roku from 7 to 8. That's how you can get us.
Yeah, Mark does a really nice job helping us on Twitter by sharing a lot of the content. We appreciate that very much. I've known Mark for a while, and we actually met here on Twitter and subsequently got together in Cooperstown. So great stuff, Mark. Glad to have you on part of the team. He'll be obviously on baseball, and now he'll have another role with the hockey group as well. All right, Eric, go ahead.
You can find me on my Twitter at Sports Team News, and you can follow me on my blog at bellyupsports.com, where I write about all teams in baseball.
And on this show, there are 3 authors. I'm one of them. The other one's Trent Clark. Why don't you talk about your book for a moment and also all the information as well about yourself.
Yeah, happy to talk about that. Leading Winning Teams. Just wrote that book with Wiley Publishing, and thrilled that we got that out there last August. I am the podcast host of Winners Find a Way. We just exceeded the 100,000 download per month since the book's release in the last 30 days. Super excited about that. So we're always pushing our element. So congratulations to the Winners Find a Way team. And you can find me at Trent@leadershipity.com, all the social medias at Leadershipity, or Trent M. Clark.
As well as on our show on Monday nights. All right, George Eichhorn, go ahead.
Yeah, and this is the third of the three authors, myself, Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air. And you can find a link to it in my column. I write under the South Florida Tribune site, the Motor City Tribune, obviously all things Detroit. And so we have a link there that Candy's created that could take you right to Amazon to order my book. Scott's in the book too, much younger version of me too.
Yeah.
But it's a great read, and I appreciate that the late Ernie Harwell did my foreword. You can reach me at gicorn@yahoo.com and also at Twitter at SanGSports99, and follow me also in the Detroit Monitor here locally.
All right, well done, everybody. So that does it for us here. 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. We'll do it again next Monday night. So on behalf of Mark, Candy behind the scenes is our producer, George Eichhorn, Eric Katz, and Trent Clark. My name is Scott Morganroth. Thank you for joining us on this edition of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk, and we will see you next Monday night. Good night, everybody. Have a great week.
Great.